Let's now talk to a political analyst and lawyer, Tony La Viña. Good to see you again, Tony. It's been
Hello.
a while. Okay, I'm going to start with
evening.
this. Your assessment in today's elections. It's about to close.
Maybe not, because if you're actually in the precinct, it should not close. So Yusa Alba is not actually a problem as long as they're online for the precinct, because the precinct should not close until everyone has voted.
True.
But actually, there's a call, and I don't know if the COMELEC will respond to this, to extend the voting hours for 2 hours. No? Kasi ang dami masyadong na affected dito sa this VCM malfunction in many precincts will cause disenfranchisement. Especially, we don't want that for first-time voters. I mean, because we don't want to disappoint. They're very excited. This is a very contentious, very important elections, and people are actually passionate about their votes. So, if it were just 1 or 2, that's fine, right? I mean, you can find some solution. But hundreds at least, maybe a couple of thousand VCMs have not
There were
worked,
issues, yeah.
it seems. And when you add that up, that's still 1 million votes, no? Because it's 500 to 600 per VCM. That might not actually be ballots that will actually not be cast. In a close election, and I will bet that this is a close election. I could be wrong, because the survey seems to suggest it will be a landslide, but if the other scenario happens that it's a close election, 1 billion votes makes a difference. 200,000 votes was the margin between VP Lenny and Senator Marcos in 2016. So I would urge the COMELEC to consider that request for a 2-hour extension. Anyway, they already announced essentially that they will not be able to start the canvassing
Until
at the national level, which is a senatorial,
Yeah.
because they don't canvass presidential until tomorrow. So if that's the case, right, I suspect we won't have a lot of results
Really?
tonight at the national level. Local level, yes, because once it's transmitted, they only have that particular in that particular geography that they then put together. But at the national level, senatorial, presidential, which are just reflected in the server but not yet canvassed, because Congress canvasses it. It doesn't seem like we're gonna get a lot tonight from that. So maybe we can calm down and allow that
it's
extension.
good you mentioned that, because when and if the precincts close at 7, people are already wondering what's next. Siyempre, dyan na rin papasok, of course, the PPCRV, which conducts parallel, unofficial. Okay, let's stress that, unofficial count. So you don't think by tonight there will be a lot of votes that will be counted or papasok sa may encode ng PPCRV?
Para the senatorial and presidential, parang they seem to tell us that we shouldn't expect that. I mean, I'm not 100% sure on how that will work, because the transmission comes all at the same time, right? I mean, it's one result, counting all the votes in that, and they're transmitted to the local level, transmitted to the COMELEC, including a parallel server. The parallel server is just because it's unofficial, but just the same. It's supposed to be exactly the same as what comes in the COMELEC. That's why it's called the parallel server. So we'll see, but it seems like we won't be able to get those results, and maybe most of the results will really come in, which is always a problem with the system, because it comes in like, if it comes in lunchtime tomorrow or even early morning later, it comes in like in 50%, right, of the votes already. And then people are just surprised that someone is leading massively already.
And then sometimes, there are questions on that as well. I just want to get your thoughts on, what your thoughts are from the campaign that we've seen, different kinds of campaign that we've seen to Election Day. How has this evolved, or how different is it from the last elections?
Very different. The stakes are very high. We will have 2 different Philippines on June 30, not tomorrow or not on Wednesday, because we still have President Duterte until June 30, but we will have a very different Philippines, different way of governance, different approach to corruption, different approach to human rights, different approach to foreign policy. I think the two leading contenders have run good campaigns from a purely vote-getting point of view, but one of the leading candidates have been very difficult to pin down by both media and even by us analysts on what he really stands for. And I mean, what are his policy prescriptions? What is the economic platform that keeps us kind of blind of where we're going? But the biggest difference, Pinky, in these elections is the extent of the disinformation. It's been incredible. I actually chair a movement against disinformation, which is non-partisan, that's been trying to engage with social media platforms, trying to hold people accountable. We've filed cases against government officials. We've filed cases against even a TV franchise for disinformation. A lot of it related to red tagging, but red tagging became an election issue. So that's why it's so important. But candidates have been attacked very viciously by trolls. False information about candidates and their families have been disseminated and successfully. I mean, what I mean is that it has been good for some campaigns to do that, to peddle this information, which worries me because then in the future it will get even worse. It started in 2016, a little bit in 2019, but this was really bad in 2022.
And that's something that needs to be addressed by the next administration.
I don't trust the government to do it. In fact, regardless of who wins, I won't trust the government to be the one to deal with this information.
So who should take
charge? It has to be citizens that has to deal with information. It has to be traditional media, actually. It's very important. That's the irony, right? It's traditional media that now checks, fact checks for everyone when we used to fact check you more. Very important role in doing that.
Let's talk about, I want to look into issues that to you have taken center stage or should take center stage with the next administration. One, and the second one, issues that have been ignored by the candidates that need to be addressed in the next administration.
Well, the first issue, the most important issue is still the pandemic and exiting out of this pandemic because people are still miserable, people don't have jobs, small businesses are in trouble, the fiscal situation of the government is not in good shape because of the pandemic. So we would expect the president to have very sound economic policies, to clearly show us a stimulus package, for example, for small business, support,
MSMEs.
more support for the basic sectors, for the poor, for workers, for farmers, for the urban poor. We really need to see that. Related to that, for me, it's not just about economic development, it's also about social inequality. The pandemic showed really how bad this country is, how unjust this country is, how bad the poor are treated, how skewed the power relations of this country. I hope that the next administration will deal with that. There are many issues that should have been addressed in this campaign, but it really surprises me that climate change has not come up to be a very important issue. Two, we actually had two big climate events that affected millions while the campaign period and this election is going on. Odette in November, December, that devastated many islands in the Visayas and Mindanao. And Agaton, that right now is still devastating hundreds of communities in the Visayas, right? And you would expect the candidates to actually talk about it, to be passionate about it, to give solutions. Climate justice is the solution. We really have to be serious about that. So I can't, and of course it's probably one of the most important issues for the youth, which is 30 to 40% of the vote. So it boggles my mind why not a single candidate, unfortunately, not a single candidate has made that a signature issue.
You just answered my next question on who among the candidates had actually clear policies on this, but you said none really addressed
Well, there are
this.
clear policies. Let me. VP Lenny has very clear policies actually about that. Senator Lacson also has clear policies, and I would say that Leody de Guzman would have very clear.
Okay.
But they did not talk about it. In other words, and maybe I'm reflecting about it, maybe because it doesn't differentiate them, because everyone will agree with what they say, so maybe it did not. But it just strikes me that it's not front and center,
yeah.
when this is a country that is ravaged by climate change, and there's so much climate injustice in this country.
We just need to take a very short break. You're watching a CNN Philippines special coverage, the Filipino Votes 2022 Election Day. We'll be coming from that tweet, no, from our netizen. There's so many things that needs to be fixed. Let's just add also the debt of the country, which is now at what? Over 12 trillion. Just a couple of weeks ago, ang alam ko, it was at 11 point something. Now it's at 12 point something. What I want to find out from you now is whoever wins this election, do you think that the public will be more aggressive in calling out the winner to fulfill his or her election promises?
I think so. In fact, my column tomorrow, which I wrote already and submitted, is called Stormy Days. It's in the Manila Standard. It's stormy days ahead of the country. Whoever wins, because the economic picture is not good. The leading candidate, we don't even have an idea who his economic managers will be. We have that idea with the other candidate that's also could put up a fight. Whoever wins will encounter a divided country. Even in the case of a landslide, there might be 30-40% that would vote against that person, but that 40% or 30% is very passionate. There won't be destabilization, in my view, if in fact it's a clean and honest elections. People in this country accept election results, so we won't see that. But the destabilization or the problems will come when bad decisions are made. Economy, corruption, foreign policy. When those decisions are made, there'll be a pushback. If Mr. Marcos wins, for sure there'll be a pushback on human rights, on things that people expect he might be doing that's not acceptable. If VP Lenny wins, he will win in a very narrow margin. And people will actually say, the Marcos supporters will actually say that they were cheated. So actually either leading candidate, should truly call for a national unity government in the real sense of the word. I mean, my understanding of Mr. Marcos of the national unity government is basically political families from the north and the south coming together for the country. I think national unity is all the sectors of our society. I advocate very strongly, for example, for indigenous people rights and for Lumad rights in Mindanao, for the Lumad schools in Mindanao that have been red tagged and attacked and closed down by this government. I think the next government should actually open up those schools in the spirit of reconciliation and help us move forward as a country. We should have the resumption of the peace process. Either way, it doesn't matter which of them will win, but it will be stormy for both of them. That's my point.
Dean Attorney Tony La Viña. Sir, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.